Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about another massive missile and drone strike that took place during the previous night. The Russians attacked the territory of Ukraine, mainly the Russians were attacking the city of Kyiv. During the night we received lots of different updates and videos of how exactly the Russians were attacking different parts of the city. During the night we started receiving lots of updates that lots of drones and lots of missiles were heading towards the city of Kyiv, and somewhere around 2 or 3 a.m. of Ukrainian time we started receiving first updates about first explosions on the territory of the city, and right after this we start receiving first videos. For example, in this video we can see how Russians, as a result of missile attack or as a result of drone attack, damage multi-storage building in the central part of the city of Kyiv. Here we can see another picture of a smoke screen above area that Russians attacked with missiles. So there were lots of information once again during the night, and during the night it wasn't unclear what exactly the Russians were attacking, what kind of objects, what kind of facilities. We just had lots of pictures, lots of videos and lots of different posts about very powerful attack carried out by the Russians. The only thing was clear is that the Russians during the previous night used the significant number of drones and Russians used dozens of missiles. Probably during the night I had such a feeling that the Russians established a new record or anti-record when talking about numbers of missiles and drones that they used. And by the morning of the 28th of August, when sun rised, we started receiving real details and more updates about the situation. This is the map of approximate routes of attacks of Russian missiles and drones. As you can see, we have several areas of explosions. The Russians attacked the city of Dnipro, the Russians attacked the Donbas direction, the cities of Pokrovsk, most likely Slavyansk, Kramatorsk. The Russians attacked Starokonstantinov, this is the area where Ukrainians keep their F-16s, probably for air defense purposes, and Russians attacked the city of Kyiv. So we have yellow lines, which means that the Russians used hundreds of drones. We have red lines, which means that Russians use cruise missiles of Hawa 101 type, and we have blue lines, which means Russians used lots of Iskander missiles, ballistic missiles, and of course hypersonic missiles. Later, pro-Ukrainian resources and the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine published this article where we can see the exact number of air units that the Russians used. The Ukrainians are saying that during the previous night they managed to bring down lots of units. They managed to destroy 629 units. So we are talking about drones and missiles altogether. The Ukrainians are saying that the Russians used 2 Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, 9 Iskander-M missiles, ballistic missiles, and 20 cruise missiles. So, and Ukrainians are saying that they managed to bring down almost everything. So they're saying that the accuracy of Ukraine air defense is more than around 90 or even 95%. But the pictures and videos that we got from the ground tell us most likely about completely different picture, about completely different accuracy and effectiveness of Ukraine air defense. And probably the most important scenes and the most important videos are coming from this area. This is probably the most important video, and as a result of this attack, most likely the Russians managed to deal the biggest damage ever on the territory of the city of Kyiv. Here we can see the first Iskander attack, or probably not even Iskander, but maybe hypersonic missile of Kinzhal, and right after this attack another strike took place. So the Russians damaged some building in the city of Kyiv with 2 missiles, which means that this wasn't something like an accident attack from the Russian side, or the Russians just attack in the direction of Kyiv. No matter what exactly they will damage and destroy, 2 missiles at some point, at one point, means that the Russians were planning to destroy this building, were planning to destroy these facilities. As for the morning of the 28th of August of 2025, we still haven't received anything regarding what exactly the Russians attacked with these 2 missiles. The only information we have is the video where we can see 2 missiles, and this video where we can see the consequences of this attack. So once again, something was destroyed. Maybe the Ukrainians were using these buildings for production of drones. Maybe the Ukrainians were using these buildings as a headquarters with general staff of the armed forces of Ukraine. As of now, once again, we don't know for sure, but obviously the Russians exactly wanted to destroy this building. Once again, the Russians during the previous night used almost 700 air units to attack the city of Kyiv, and not just the city of Kyiv, but different cities and towns over the entire territory of Ukraine. And this is probably one of the biggest strikes since the beginning of the special military operation. So let's wait and see what is going to be next. The Ukrainians also during the night tried to counterattack Russia, and according to information we have, several oil refinery plants were damaged and destroyed by Ukrainians. In this video we can see a smoke, a fire screen that's happened after another attack with drone. Furthermore, the main intelligence or the main let's say intelligence service of Ukraine published the video how they attacked Russian caliber carrier in the Azov Sea with drones, with FPV drones that were launched from Navy drone, but the ship was damaged but wasn't destroyed. So as we understand, the Ukrainians were trying to do something to slow down the Russians, to show that Ukrainians also have tools how to counterattack Russians. But when comparing the damage that the Russians managed to do and the Ukrainians, obviously the situation is much in Russian favor. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Kherson direction. During the previous 24 hours, the pro-Russian resources published another video of how exactly they were establishing a kill zone along the M14 road between the city of Nikolaev and the city of Kherson. This is a third day in a row when we receive video from this direction. During the previous 2 days we got videos, but with consequences of Russian attacks, lots of destroyed vehicles, lots of destroyed cars, and that's it. When talking about this video, here we can see exactly the process of how exactly the Russians were attacking with FPV drones Ukrainian vehicles that were moving from the city of Kherson between the cities of Kherson and Nikolaev. Here we can see lots of episodes, probably dozens of episodes, tens of episodes of destroyed vehicles, of attacks, which means that the Russians have established almost complete control over this territory. And one thing is clear, and one thing I can tell you for sure, that most likely from now on civilians from the city of Kherson will not use their vehicles for let's say for M14 road purposes. Ukrainians most likely will try to avoid this road. Most likely civilians will try to evacuate themselves from the city of Kherson due to complete absence of supply and support from the mainland, which means that if Ukrainians continue using this road, most likely they will use this for military purposes, which means that the Russians will increase their effectiveness in this kill zone, which means that the city of Kherson will become more and more exhausted before possible Russian offensive operation in this area. So as we can see, the situation remains tense in this area. The Russians improving their positions. The Russians have already created a kill zone along M14 road. Now it's very interesting what the Russians are going to do next. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Zaporozhye direction, where the Russians continue their offensive operation, and it seems that the Russians continue their offensive operation already in the direction of the city of Zaporozhye, the capital of this region. During the previous 12 hours, as you can see, the map has been updated in Russian favor. First, let's compare the map between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 27th of August of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 28th of August of 2025. We have two geolocations. One of the geolocations took place in the southern part of the settlement of Stignogorsk in the 3rd micro district. In this video we can see how Ukrainians with FPV drone attacked some area in the southeastern part of this micro district. The author of this video stated that Ukrainians attacked positions of the armed force of the Russian Federation. Based on this video we haven't adjusted anything. This is just the video that confirms Russian control, at least partial control, over the 3rd micro district. The most important video is coming from the settlement by the name of Primorska. This is already the settlement of Primorska, not even the city of Stepnogorsk. And here we can see how Ukrainians of 33rd Assault Regiment were counter-attacking Russians in the area of the settlement. We have lots of episodes and scenes of close combat between Russians and Ukrainians. And in the final part of this video we can see how Ukrainians, as a result result of counter-offensive operation, managed to capture several Russian soldiers in this area. Based on this video, we have adjusted everything behind this point. So we believe that the Russians continue infiltration and sending more and more troops in the direction of the settlement, not just along railways, but most likely due to the situation with the Dnieper River and with this water reserve. We believe that the Russians are able to send their sabotage and reconnaissance group also through the former Dnieper River and this reservoir, which increases Russians' capabilities to the south of the city of Zaporozhye. The Russians most likely will continue their offensive, but probably the most important thing is not just that the Russians improve their positions, but also that the Ukrainians were forced to redeploy their 33rd Assault Regiment from the Sumy direction. You know that those days and these days the Ukrainians were forced to redeploy lots of units from the Sumy direction. According to information we have, the Ukrainians redeployed units of 110th Brigade, Ukrainians redeployed units of 225th Assault Regiment. Now we got report that Ukrainians were forced to redeploy the units of 33rd Assault Regiment, which means that currently the Ukrainians could be very weak in the Sumy direction, which means that the Russians most likely will intensify their offensive operation in this area with the purpose to finish the battle for the second layer and for the first layer of the Sumy direction and to get as close as possible to the city of Sumy itself. We believe that the Russians will resume their Sumy offensive operation in coming days due to the situation that Ukrainians were forced to redeploy lots of units in different areas like the Zaporozhye direction and like the Pokrovsk direction. As for the Pokrovsk direction, during the previous 24 hours, several pro-Russian resources reported that the village and the settlement of Udachna was taken by the armed force of the Russian Federation. As of now, we are waiting for additional geolocations and we are waiting for another report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation that can confirm this. As for the Russian breakthrough to the north of the Pokrovska mine, by the morning of the 28th of August of 2025, we still haven't received anything that can confirm anything about this breakthrough. I would like to remind you that yesterday this information was provided by several very reliable pro-Russian resources, but as for the morning of the 28th of August, this information still hasn't been confirmed. As for the city of Pokrovsk, there are very heavy clashes between Russians and the Ukrainians, and the most important is that during the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, we got lots of videos, and most of them were mainly from the central part of the city. These, let's say, videos and these updates confirms that Russian artillery focus is moving further and further in the northern direction, and now the main clashes and the main artillery duels and the main strikes are taking place in the central part along the railways. This probably detail confirms that most likely the Russians are about to finish the battle for the most southern citadel of the city of Pokrovsk and for the entire southern part of the city, which means that the battle is moving further in the northern direction for the northern part of the settlement. As for the northeastern part, during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received anything. The Russians continue their offensive operation around the Shakhovo pocket, trying to tighten the news around positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. As you can see, during the previous night, during the previous 12 hours, no changes on the ground were recorded. The Ukrainians show fierce resistance, which slows down the Russians. As for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded to the south of the settlement of Nilipovka. There are very heavy clashes in this area. According to this video, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to improve their positions a bit further along the river of Kryvyi Tarets. Based on this video and based on the geolocation that took place exactly in this area, we will add a bit later, the Russians improved their positions and the Russians are about to cut completely the T of 0522 road and to force Ukrainians to fall back. The situation here also remains tense for the armed forces of Ukraine, and the Russians are getting closer and closer to the city of Konstantinovka. As for the Liman direction or the southern Kupiansk area, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions further in the southern direction from the settlement of Kolodezi. According to several pro-Russian resources, another stronghold was taken by the Russians, and currently the villages of Zarechny and Stavki were cut by the Russians in two. So it seems that the situation has become very difficult for the armed forces of Ukraine in this area, and we are waiting that in 10 days from this moment, the situation in the this area will be completely changed in Russian favor, and most likely the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back both from the settlements of Zaryechne and from the settlement of Stavki towards the city of Liman. And the battle for Liman, the third battle for Liman, will start. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes on my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.